When a major crisis hits, like an earthquake, a flood, or even a pandemic, how does a country actually respond? Is it just about cleaning up the mess and getting things back to normal? Or is there a deeper strategy at play? We're going to get into that because a really fascinating new study looked at almost 30 years of Turkey's national development plans to see exactly how they prepare for the worst and what all of us can learn from it.
When a crisis hits, you see every nation, every community really faces the same fundamental choice. The big question isn't just if you'll get back on your feet, but how. Do you just try to survive? Do you adapt a little bit? Or do you totally transform?
Here's a great way to think about it. Bouncing back, that just means getting back to how things were. It's all about restoring the status quo. But bouncing forward, well, that's something else entirely. That's about using the chaos, the disruption, as a launch pad to build something better, smarter, and way more resilient for the future. And this one question is really the key to understanding the whole idea of national resilience. So, to figure this out, researchers use this really clear framework. It breaks resilience down into 3 core capacities. And if you get these 3 ideas, you can see exactly what's going on inside a country's big strategic plans. Okay, first up, we've got absorptive capacity. This is your immediate frontline defense. It's the ability to just take a punch and stay standing, using the resources and skills you already have on hand. Think crisis management, emergency response, pure survival. This is the very definition of bouncing back.
Next, there's adaptive capacity. Now, this goes a step further. It's not just about surviving the crisis. It's about learning from it. It's about looking at what went wrong and making some smart adjustments so you're better prepared for next time. So if absorptive capacity is trying to weather the storm, adaptive capacity is reinforcing the windows for the next one.
And finally, we get to the most powerful one, transformative capacity. This is the real game changer. This is the ability to fundamentally change the entire system to get rid of the root causes of the problem in the first place. So you're not just reinforcing the windows anymore, you're redesigning the whole house so it's hurricane-proof. This is what it means to bounce forward.
Okay, I know this looks a little complex. It's right out of the research paper, but the main idea is actually pretty simple. The researchers connected each of those capacities to a specific quality. They linked absorptive capacity, just surviving, with the idea of robustness. They connected adaptive capacity, learning, with flexibility. And they tied transformative capacity, rebuilding better, to things like integration and creating brand new systems. This is the exact lens they used to analyze everything.
So, with that framework in mind, the researchers took it and applied it to decades of Turkey's national development plans, all the way from their 8th plan up to their 12th. So, let's take a look at what they found.
So how on earth did they do this? Well, they did a really detailed keyword analysis. They basically went through these huge, dense documents, searching for terms related to each of those 3 capacities, absorptive, adaptive, and transformative, to see where the country's strategic focus really was over the last 28 years.
And the results? They were incredibly stark. The researchers found that words and phrases related to that immediate reactive, absorptive capacity showed up a staggering 967 times. I mean, just to put that into perspective, that one single category completely dominated the strategic outlook of all of these plans.
And this chart just shows that imbalance perfectly. I mean, look at that first bar on the left, the one for that reactive, absorptive capacity. It absolutely dwarfs the other 2, the ones for learning and for changing. The country's plans were overwhelmingly focused on just reacting to problems, not on proactively changing things for the better.
So, what's the big deal? I mean, isn't it a good thing to be ready for an emergency? Well, of course it is. But the research argues that when you rely too heavily on just reacting, without balancing it with adapting and transforming, you end up with some pretty serious long-term problems.
The study's conclusion, it really doesn't pull any punches. It says, flat out, that focusing on these temporary reactive plans has actually resulted in long-term failure. You get trapped in a constant cycle of reacting to one crisis after another, and you never actually get ahead of them.
This kind of imbalance creates this vicious cycle, right? Because the focus is always on putting out the latest fire. There's no strategic continuity from one plan to the next. That means the whole process of learning gets neglected. And that, in turn, leads to wasted time, wasted resources, and wasted effort on solutions that don't fix the root cause. Ultimately, it means missing those huge opportunities that crises create to build a truly more resilient society. And so the cycle just repeats itself with the next disaster.
But it's not all doom and gloom. The study doesn't just point out the problem, it also proposes a solution. It lays out a clear, strategic path for shifting that balance and building a genuinely resilient future.
So, how do you break this cycle? Well, the study lays out a clear 4-step approach. First, you have to make learning from the past a non-negotiable step. Then, you use those lessons to build a really stable foundation for your long-term national goals, like Turkey's 2053 vision. From there, you have to consciously prioritize those transformational ideas, things like cooperation, integration, and systemic change, in all your future plans. And finally, you have to make sure that learning and monitoring are continuous processes, not just something you do after a crisis is already over.
And this really leaves us with a powerful final thought. These development plans, they aren't just dusty old bureaucratic documents. They are literally a nation's blueprint for its future. And this research really suggests that what's written in those blueprints can be the difference between a country that's trapped in a cycle of reaction and one that can actually harness the power of a crisis to not just bounce back, but to truly bounce forward.